All right, guys, a very good evening and welcome all to the Vaidya Chess Hub. And this is day 13. We are now into the semi-final stage as far as the winners bracket is concerned. Let's remind all that this is a knockout tournament and that is double elimination. So everybody uses a chance to come back. If they lose the second time, well, yes, then they are knocked out completely. Today we have the semi-final clash, and the clash will be between Samartha and Kshitij. Samartha will play with the white pieces and Kshitij will play with the black pieces, and the time control is 12 plus 3, as we see here that they are ready, but of course there are about 3 minutes for the game to start. Meanwhile, let's remind our viewers on the channel that WhatsApp is to be utilized for any comments, because on the chat, that is on the YouTube chat, you won't be able to make any comments. Chat is disabled. Of course, just to make sure that the play is all fair. It is, in my opinion, a great thing that Samartha is going to play with the white pieces. He is excellent at that. I don't think he will deviate much. E4 might be the opening choice. And at the same time, as far as Kshitij is concerned, if E4, well, I think that he will go for the Karo Khan. People can tell me on our WhatsApp group about what they think. So Mohit Patil is saying that it is going to be tough to say today. I don't have any particular prediction. And Granth Utekar also says that yes, it is tough to predict. I have no such predictions. It is very interesting. And the time control, by the way, is pretty tricky. It's 12 plus 3 because it's a semi-final. And later on in the final, we will have it at 15 plus 3. The juniors from the subsequent rounds have understood the importance of using time. That's the one thing that they have learned out of this tournament, that the thinking time must be utilized. There's no point having time to spare and then losing the match, because that does not help in any way. However, now new comments. Mohit says it is tough to say, but he is backing Samartha to win here. Well, that's an interesting thing. I would also back Samartha here. The reason is that he's playing with white pieces. He is a strong player when it comes to that. Although I must tell you that his rating shows 1860, he is a much stronger player. Sometimes, a player's rating does not truly reflect the player's strength, and Samartha is one such example in our hub. I've always maintained that he should definitely be there in up 2000, maybe 2050 or somewhere in that region. However, he is at 1860, which is not bad at all. And Kshitij is close to 2100. This is a rated encounter, so definitely will be interesting to see. The juniors now, there's just about a minute for them to start this game. You can also type in your predictions. Yatharth, Itesh, Prajna, if she's watching and if she's all right, she's recovering from COVID, the last I know. So if there are juniors watching this, even Pooja ma'am, if she is watching this, what is your prediction? It is indubitably, yes, tough to say. Later on, we are going to have Google Meet for the students of the hub, and we will have the opinion of both the players about what their views are about this game. So we will do post-game analysis. I suppose it's e4 c6, unless Samartha has decided to come up with a surprise and that he has studied that Datta often plays e4 c6. He might go for something else. All in all, a perfect game at hand. Grab some snacks and watch this. Now, any second we will have the first move on the board. There we go. No surprises. e4. I was always of that opinion. And Perk defense. d6. Let's see. d4 is mainline. There we go. And now is it knight to f6 or is it g6? Knight to f6. If Samartha wants to play with initiative and tempo, he will push e5, I think, and then pawn exchange, he will probably lose castle rights. So maybe first knight c3. Let's see how Samartha wants to handle this position. This is main line, by the way, nothing extraordinary. Knight to c3, there we go. He is preparing e5 now. The juniors must learn that it is just the third move of the game and they have utilized 20 seconds already. This is how you're supposed to play. Okay. G6, that's a move. Ooh. Main line again. G6 it is. Knight to f3. All main line. I am just happy as a coach because whenever I see about first 8 to 10 moves right out of the book, that shows that they have really prepared this very well and they are playing technically very soundly. Black preparing to castle. White should also look to do the same now. The bishop on f1. And now the thing is, there is a sudden pause as Kshitij thinks whether he wants to castle or is there any other move on the queen side that he would like to accomplish. It's damn interesting. Same side castling, the position will be perfectly equal. White has more space, one has to understand that. Knights towards the center. He has castled. There's no doubt about what white will do. Hardly any doubt. You can put your money on that. The players who have great potential for the next knockout tournament, as far as promise they've shown in this tournament, are, in my humble opinion, Chinmay, Granth Utekar, Sanchit. They've shown marvelous promise. Let us not forget that that Itesh also did particularly well. Alan was there, really done well. These are the people to watch out for the next tournament when they will hone their skills even more and they will come even better prepared. Who knows? Ayush Tavade is saying my prediction is reversed and he says Samartha will win. Okay. Now, by reversed, I want to know from Ayush, were you of the opinion earlier that Kshitij will win and now you say that it will be Samartha will win, or you think that your opinion is in contrast with what Mohit said or Chinmay said? Oh, Chinmay is backing Kshitij here. Chinmay Iyer, another promising talent. He is saying that Kshitij will win. He prefers black's position maybe. This is not a bad idea for Samartha just to push h3. The simple reason is, in normal circumstances, what happens is after h3, that bishop can just drop back to h5, extending the pin, but not in this case. So h3, the bishop will have to take the knight, otherwise just retreat, making that move redundant. So no doubt that white's move is h3 here, without a doubt, h3. And the bishop will have to either go for the exchange or just retreat. And that wouldn't be a bad move. Oh, he retreated the bishop. A surprisingly strange idea. h3 accomplished the following. Number one, a move for the king, not the back rank threat anymore, no back rank threat anymore. And the other thing was that the bishop would have been gotten in exchange for the knight. There was no bishop to h5 in this situation. But interestingly, Samartha thought otherwise. He has just played bishop e2. Lucky for Samartha, anyway, there is this exchange now. Bishop takes f3, hardly a doubt about that. Won't take with the g pawn. So both black and white, after this move, bishop takes f3, will have one piece undeveloped. For black, he's got to do something about that knight on b8, and Samartha will have to find a good square for his bishop on c1. Are there any hanging pieces in the position? Absolutely not. Except for that pawn vulnerable on b7 now. That's a new threat. At the moment, of course, this pawn on e4, but should that pawn move, there will be discovered attack. So b7 is definitely under attack. High time black does something about that lopsided development. Not yet. Ooh. So he has just decided to block the path of that pawn and to station that on e4. Okay. And now if white develops his bishop, it will mean that he will be the first to have all the pieces in the game. He has bishop g4 idea, by the way, followed by knight d5. That idea has just opened up now because of that move. So bishop g5, knight d5. That will mean all the pieces are in the game. And bishop g5, knight b d7 will solve black's problems. Samartha choosing to exchange. Will he exchange even the queens? Would white want to exchange the queens and play without the queens, especially when you have 9 minutes on the clock? Do you want to go for that kind of a middle game? Let's see. This move is very interesting now. Queen e2 or queen takes d8. None of the above. Bishop g5 is played now. I think that would have been better with the pawn on d6. Now black has a choice. Black can go for the queen exchange. That knight is actually not pinned. Because if black chooses, he can go for the queen exchange. Knight b d7 is always there, of course. Both the players are matched evenly on time. Knight c6 says, I am not doing the exchange. But that allows white knight d5. Yeah, for sure. And because the knight now is on c6, that knight on d5 will look good. Again, I must say white has a bishop pair here and space advantage. Now, another of our rising star, Hitesh, is supporting Samartha. He says Samartha will win. Hitesh, are there any particular reasons why you are backing Samartha? What are your reasons? Is it just your intuition, your gut feeling, or are there any reasons? By the way, if people are wondering how do I get these chats, they are using our WhatsApp chat group for their comments. Since we have disabled chat in the YouTube live just to enable fair play. Okay, so Samartha says, you don't want to exchange, fine by me. Let me have your rook then on d8, and now knight will be pinned. But then important that Samartha takes charge of that d file. You don't want to concede an easy file. I believe Datta is thinking what's the right way of recapture, and the knight makes the recapture. Now everybody should note the reason probably is he wants to go with his knight to e6 and question the bishop that way. Normally you question the bishop by h6, but here knight e6 will do that job, and followed by knight to f4 in some cases. Samartha says, nonetheless, I'll take charge of the file, and so rook a d1. I have no doubt that knight e6 is the move. If the knight goes back to c6, that will make the recapture meaningless. Knight e6 has to be the move, and it is seen on the board. That's nice. Always good to get into some thought process. Juniors could tell me if they also thought knight e6 was the move. And now both the players have lost one of their bishops. Opposite colored bishops. Kshitij has a dark colored bishop, and Samartha will have the light colored bishop. Hitesh with a comment. Hitesh says Samartha has bishop, Bishop has more value, 3 points, but bishop has more value than knight. So because of the bishop pair, Samartha will win. But Hitesh, now you must have seen that he actually has exchanged for a knight. So now both have got a bishop each. As I said, the opposite colored bishop. And now that knight, thanks to that pawn on e5, has got good squares. But I wouldn't say that anyone here at the moment is favored to win. The position looks finely balanced. Bishop f6, bishop takes f6 was the last move. Enough time at hand for both the players. I sincerely feel they should go about utilizing their complete available time. Knight b5 will put a lot of pressure on the c7 pawn. He is looking to double the rooks on the d file. Hitesh says yes. And now knight to, for knight to d5, there was bishop to d8. I believe after that exchange, knight d5, there was bishop to d8, protecting that pawn on c7. And there was knight on c6, or e6 rather. I sincerely suggest they go about using time here. They have enough time at hand, especially now that the queens are off the board. You better make the most of available resources. I still say that knight d5 looks very strong. The rooks can be doubled up. Knight b5 now looks strong because of the c7 pawn. Don't forget that the pawn on e4 has the backing of the bishop. But from the black side, black also has knight d4. Let us not forget that. And knight to f4 already mentioned. Okay, so Kshitij says, I'm not going to push the knight. First, let me see what you want to do here. Is it rook f d1? Rook f d1, then is there knight d4? So breaking the connection of the rooks. Is that how Kshitij wants to proceed with this? However, now intermediate move is knight d5. Let me show you. Let me share the line with you. Knight d5, if rook takes d7, then knight f6 check, and then knight can take on d7. So the intermediate move, the Zwischenschuk, the Zwischenschuk is very important. Knight d5, rook takes rook, knight takes f6 check, winning that rook. So will he go about doing that? Rook was doubled, all right, and now knight to d4 as suggested. It's high time. Knight d5 is maybe, what can you say? It's now more than overdue. Knight d5 was strong, I feel. Kavish is absolutely, Kavish is surprised a little bit and he says, no plans how Samartha is planning to go. So he thinks that Samartha's play is unpredictable for him, that is. I am perfectly sure Samartha knows what he's playing. Players always plan what they, what they want to accomplish in a given position. But I feel knight d5 was so much, oh, it finally comes. So rook takes rook is not immediately possible here. Notice how that knight on d5 is powerful. Knight to d5 attacks f6, and also the pawn on c7 now is attacked twice and not even defended once. Is Yatharth here? Check comes first, and Datta has gotten for himself some weakness to attack double pawns for Samartha, but hey, that knight on d5 is very strong. And the bishop is hanging. The pawn on c7 is hanging. I would prefer white here. I told you that the rating Samartha has is not justified. Many a times that happens in our hub itself. I feel there are so many, their rating really does not reflect their true potential. What's up now with bishop g5? The c7 pawn is going to fall for sure, but does knight take it? Because the rooks anyway protect each other. I don't at all think there is any issue with that. Big decision to make about taking that pawn on c7. It will be an enjoyable experience. Oh, Samartha took with the rook. So he says, I'll take with the rook and I'll continue to pressurize all the pawns on the 7th rank. Hey, watch out. Rook takes b7. Now what is that up to? That's why I said that that knight on d5 is a strong move. I would have played that even before the rooks got doubled, but nonetheless, he has a very solid position. White is, I'm going for white here. However, the cushion, let me remind our viewers, the cushion that both these players have is that they are from the winner's bracket. Some comments about that in the chat. You know that they are from the winner's bracket and therefore they will have yet another chance. Doesn't matter who loses today. Hey, what's up? That is something special, is it not? Doesn't matter who loses, they will have their second chance. Big thing. That is a big thing to have that second chance even when you play the semi-finals. And now opposition. So if you take that pawn, then black will go about taking gobbling pawns on c2. But I think white is strong here. Now, interesting decision. Should you go about the pawn capture and have a safe past a pawn? Rook takes b7, rook takes c2, rook takes a2, rook takes b2, and white will have a clear passer on the a file. Mohit acknowledges that, says surely they have one more chance. Yes, and that is a big thing. Imagine you are playing the semi-final and you have the assurance that even if you lose, you are not going to be knocked out. Well, that is something big, something huge. There is that much less pressure on what you want to try. If you are playing semi-finals under the pressure that, hey, you lose, you go home, well, that definitely wants you to, play some safer lines that you know. Knight check. Suddenly a twist in the story, says Samartha. Let's forcibly playing with initiative and tempo. Let's get that bishop exchange, and has to be done because otherwise the rook on c8 is hanging. So there we go. Now rook takes c2, rook takes b7. And now the pawn on e4 is, e5 is also hanging. Samartha is going about this very systematically. That's just about as systematic as you can get. I repeat, this is just about as systematic as you can get. Systematic play, get your pieces, exchange them, get your rook to the 7th rank, and boy. And now if rook takes c2, the difference is after rook takes b7, black does not have rook takes b2, which he had earlier. That's why initiative and tempo. And I repeat that black had to exchange that. Otherwise, it was a fork. So bishop takes e7, rook takes e7, and still the b7 pawn is hanging. Subsequently, the a7 pawn. Black's rook on f8 is not doing much. Not to forget that there are no back rank issues for Samartha. So now we can have very much the move rook d7. What are the chances? Rook d7, and white is completely dominating the position. Oh, again systematic c3. What do you know? So rook d7, and I'm telling you that will be so massive. Both the rooks on the 7th rank, black will have what I say in chess, a crippled position. I'm sure everybody is enjoying this. Again, waiting for some comments from the juniors. Purvesh, if you are watching this, will use of time. Yatharth, if you are watching, Rayansh, if you are watching, this is pretty special here. Look at the way seniors go, but 12 minutes game, and now they both are down to 3 minutes and 2 minutes. This is how you plan and play. Commendable. Really. Yeah. Now, rook, I think it is simple now. Rook d5, rook e d5. Okay, rook e d5. White's completely winning. Oh, he did that. Why? He could have had the double. Oh, come on. He could have had the double rooks. Something to analyze. He could have had the double rooks on d file, and if rook takes, then it could have been very strong, that rook. Nonetheless, Samartha feels that let's have the rooks doubled on the fifth rank. And I feel the other rook coming on d5 would have forced the exchange. But nonetheless, white's still better in my opinion. I don't have any particular analysis in front of me. Oh, the rooks are exchanged. That is why I did not want that to happen. But anyway, had the rooks been exchanged, we would have had the same position, even if rook e d5 had been played. Whoa, and isolated pawns now. A5 and C5. What happens if white exchanges the rooks now? White's king will come closer to the pawns first. Alert. I think white is clearly winning here. Rook takes C5, C takes, B takes C5, king F1. Let's count the squares. F1, E2, D3 and C4. Four moves for the white king to come in handy. And queen side pawn majority, white is crashing home. Juniors, if you understood the plan here, there is nothing for Samartha to worry on the king side. His king is coming in first. King e2. There you go. King d3, king c4. And white has clear pawn majority on the queen side. This is crushing win for white. I'll be very surprised if Samartha does not convert this. There is no surprise now that white will win here. Game over. And why I say game over confidently is because there are no pieces to complicate issues here. When you have the king and the pawn, it's all about calculation. 90% is calculation. It's just 10% technique here. And you can clearly see if Samartha has played king f1, king e2, he knows what he's going to do. Next move, king d3, king c4. Get there, gobble up the pawns, promote to glory. As simple as things get. White will queen first. Black's pawns on the king side are pretty useless. And now king, I think it's almost forced for what black has to do here. Samartha, all he has to do is create a passer. He has got 3 pawns as opposed to 2 for Kshitij. So that's all he has to do there. And then the black king will be tied to taking care, babysit and watch the pass pawn for white. There you go. Plan accomplished. Juniors, let me know if you understood the whole idea here. That's it. Now, it is very easy for Samartha to do something here. Simple move, b4. Doesn't matter. b4 it is, has to exchange. Or even for that matter, hold on. Even for that matter, he can go for a3 first. But I think b4 is okay here. Because if black has to take here. If black doesn't take, white takes. It's just as simple as that. So b4, pawns exchange. But Samartha says, hang on. Let's create another weakness here. E5. On fire here. Totally on fire here. I did not understand why Samartha did that, but yeah, sure. On F4. Why? He just wants to make sure that the black has got no plans to advance. Now, that pawn on E5 will mean that Datta has no F6. If anybody wants to understand the merit of that, well, black doesn't have F6 now. That's the weakness everywhere. Samartha, that's why I said he wanted to create a second weakness. It doesn't have F6. Nothing is going to be accomplished now. White is just cruising to victory. I think the brackets better be you better start preparing the brackets. Samartha, will we have b4 now at least? No, he says h4. Let me go on. This is called trolling. This is chess trolling. I am not playing that, he says. Let me halt black's pawns completely on the king side. And probably now, oh no, not even now. Oh, this is surprising. A4? Why A4? Okay, so he probably even will troll more. Now king B6, king D5. Oh, now the pawn is gone. That's it. Game over. He's just given that pawn. Anyway, that had to happen after king d5. Now Samartha will probably, go about queening first. What? I think that was waste of a move. I think Samartha is wasting moves here. That was completely unnecessary what Samartha did here. That is waste of a move there by Samartha. And the only thing is he'll still win, but that king had to take the pawn there. I think he misclicked there. There was no need for that to happen. The only good thing is Samartha will now control h1, which is the queening square for black. Now that doesn't matter. That is worse. Game over. This is game over. But I still feel king should have just taken the pawn. He messed up at that king a6 move. I think he misclicked there. We'll ask him post game. We will ask him what probably his views were. Datta can resign here. There's no point trolling Samartha for this game. Datta can safely resign. Enough of that. Bad day at the office. Goodbye. There's no point trolling Samartha playing this game. He's perfectly capable of finishing it here. And if Datta plays, I don't mind Samartha trolling him. Yeah, let's have another queen. You don't want to resign? Fine. Let me have more queens on the board. Let's go for it. In my opinion, Datta is being childish here. Very pragmatic. Yeah, this is trolling. This is nice. I love the way Samartha is doing this. Love it. But yeah, I'll give my queen. You don't want to resign? Well, this is what I do. Stop acting too smart. Take that pawn. I'll give queen f6 check. Let's completely de-arm you. Yeah, queen f6 check. Let me gobble up more pawns. You don't want to resign, buddy? Fine, take that. Samartha just has to ensure there is no stalemate trick here. I mean, Datta clearly, I don't know what he's trying to accomplish. Absolute trolling. Enough of that seniority. Let's send you to the loser's bracket, says Samartha. Now that he has the king on the move. Yeah. Why doesn't Samartha go for another queen here? That's called complete trolling. And he should do that, in my honest opinion. If your opponent is unwilling to resign, let's go for that. Let's have two queens. Let's have a knight on the board. Let's have some fun with it. No, Samartha says enough. I think that's enough. Will he do that? Oh, enough trolling will be. He will wait for another 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And will probably checkmate with 1 second remains on the clock. Because Datta should have resigned like a million years ago. I don't know what the hell was that. Oh, finally, checkmate. That Samartha should have waited. Come on there. Come on there. Should have waited. Yeah, fantastic. So that is fantastic chess. And now, guys, thank you so much for joining. I'm sure you enjoyed this game. For the viewers, I will soon share the Google Meet link for the guys of the hub to meet, and we'll do some post-match analysis. Thank you so much for joining. The action will continue.